We are on Teamless Tuesday, round 18. Oh, I had a quick look at these team lists before. I got to say, some of these changes, mate. Harry Grant not in. We got Kohler getting the fullback jersey. We'll talk about that a lot. Quite a few other things. Madison on the edge. Quite a few changes for Parramatta. There's a lot going on with these team lists. I'm going to give you the play-by-play. We'll go through team by team, work through these, and have a look. So first up, Parramatta and the Bunnies. And this is a great place to start. So looking at this Parramatta side here, Jake Tungo comes in on the wing there. Interesting shout. There's a few guys like Lemuelu who could be around the picture as well. You could see Morgan Harper potentially coming in at some point too. But overall, if Tungo can play well, it looks like he could hold that spot. My view on Tungo here is that we probably need to wait a week, see how he plays, and get him maybe next week. That's what I'm thinking there. Is there a bit of an echo coming through, by the way, guys? Just let me double check that. I'll get the sound right. All right, we should be all clear now. Anyway, let's keep rolling here. So, yeah, for Tungo, he's coming in. Penasini, Russell, Talangi, Gutherson's still at fullback. I was hearing that there might be a move of Blaze to fullback at some point as well. He is the future of the position, and Gutho's had a few issues with his knees. So that's an interesting one there. Dylan Brown, Mitch Moses. I wouldn't get on Mitch Moses yet. I'm just thinking with Mitch, you probably need to wait and see, right? Like we sort of need to look at Origin and let that play out first. He might get picked for the next Origin game as well, and probably will get picked actually after that last game. So yeah, I think with Mitch Moses, you got to wait and see. Dylan Brown's a hard one. If you have Dylan Brown, we'll have a look at him in buy hold sell as well. But for Dillbags, I don't know. I'm looking at him and just thinking, yeah, you could hold on. He's dropping cash. I probably would hold on to him just for around 19 if I had him, unless you're making the move to Nico Hines. That's the big move that would make it worthwhile because you probably already have Galvin. Most of you guys will have Galvin. You might have Jack Whiten, for example. So you might not need the half. So if that's the case, you can move on from Dylan Brown. Otherwise, I'd probably hold on to him. Let's just see some of the questions here too. So some power-related questions. Moses to Ponga is a mad dog move. I wouldn't be doing that at all. No, if you've got Moses, stick with Moses at least this week. See how he plays. And then you can make a call on whether he's a keeper for you or not. Ponga, I would give Ponga a week as well. Ponga's got a pretty rich injury history, so that's the tricky part there. Then is Brown a sell? Yeah, we'll talk about that later. But if you already have the halves covered, I would be open to selling Brown. He's pretty out of form right now for fantasy, so got to be open to that. Is he Isaac's brother? That's cool. Okay, bit of talent there. Good to know. Hands a sell. I think you could be open to selling hands. Yeah, 100%. So if you sold hands, wouldn't be the worst move. Matthew Arthur's going to take more and more minutes to go along. So yeah, I don't mind that move. It's hands a sell. We covered that too. King, not hands. Starling. Look, if Starling gets the minutes, he's a great shout. But I would wait until round 20 for Starling anyway, because he doesn't play round 19. So that's the big thing there. Then let's have a look through. Starling, 53 average starting hooker. Yeah, he's a beast, but just wait and see if he gets the minutes. That's the big question there. Do we think Maddo and Cardi play 80? I think they'll play close to it. Having a look at the bench here. Oh, yeah. So Dury could steal some of those minutes on the edge from one of them. Probably more likely to be Madison. I would say, if I was picking the minutes, I would say Madison 60 minutes, Cartwright 80 minutes, and Dury 30 minutes. So 20 of them will be on the edge and 10 in the middle is my guess. All right, let's keep looking through these guys. So for the forward pack here, RCG, Brandon Hands, Junior Paulo, Ryan Madison, Bryce Cartwright, and Sean Lane. So I got on Madison last week for my team. He scored 46 points. He only had about that many minutes as well, so it's a bit of a tricky one to move with. But for Madison, he's still a good option, right? So he is dual position. If he's a starting back rower, he averages around 50 points a week. He's priced at about 550K, so you're at a good shout there. Cartwright is another option. Cartwright has better job security and injury security, but is a worse fantasy scorer. The other part is he doesn't have the dual position too. So from my perspective, I prefer Madison over Cartwright. But if you want to move to Cartwright, you can do that too. It's just he's a little bit more expensive, a little bit less reliable as a fantasy scorer. And Madison is a bit more diverse in where he can play in the team. So he can play those middle minutes as well, which are going to be needed while Hopgood's out too. So I prefer Madison over Cartwright, but both are decent enough options. as well. Look at the rest of the team here. I'm not really looking at RCG or Junior. Sean Lane is really interesting. He's very cheap, but I don't know. I just don't think he's going to play big minutes in the middle. So Sean Lane's more an impact guy through the middle, which makes it a bit harder to back him in fantasy. So I probably wouldn't be going with Sean Lane. Matthew Arthur, you could potentially have a look at him as a cash out option, but there's some better hookers going around. I'd prefer Simpkin over Arthur. So you pay a bit more, but you get what you pay for. On the Bunnies side of the ball, let's have a look at these guys here. So Trell Mitt, Alex Johnson, we got Tane Milne, Kenner, Gagai. Then we got Whiten and Walker in the halves. Looks like they're going to keep something like this in terms of their configuration going forward. They're pretty much back to as close to full strength as they're going to get. I think Campbell Graham will be out for the remainder of the year, is what I've heard. So there is a risk that Jack Whiten does move back to center at some point, with the center spot being a bit weaker for them. The other guy, Munro, might come in at some point for Gagai. Just keep an eye on that too. And that's where I wouldn't trust someone like Gagai as a fantasy option. In terms of this week, look, I think Johnson's going to score a couple of tries. Would I buy him in fantasy? Absolutely not. But I think he'll go well. Latrell Mitchell should pop up against Parramatta. Not the worst option as an early captain shout. Parramatta have been beat up by outside backs quite a bit this year, and Latrell could be the latest in that run. But at the same time, sometimes Parramatta do let the overlaps come a bit too easy, so it means that the wingers score all the tries, and the fullbacks sometimes don't do as well. So just keep that in mind. Latrell could be a bit quiet in a winning game. Just keep that in mind. For Whiten and Cody Walker, it's probably too late to be looking at Cody Walker. He's too expensive now. Whiten, I think the window is sort of closing on that as well. He's not a massive fantasy scorer. I still am hopeful that he'll average about 40 going through to the rest of the year. But overall, I probably wouldn't be jumping on now unless you do need that center and half. He is a guy you can have on the edge of your bench. So not the worst shout there. For the forward pack here, Davey Moale, Damien Cook, Sean Kepi, Cam Murray, Jai Arrow, and Keon Kalamatangi. There's a bit of talk here that Jai Arrow could be potentially out for the year with a surgery after this game. So, and there we go. Yeah, Trent, you just mentioned it too. Is it true it's his last game of the season? That's what I'm hearing. So I wouldn't be buying Jai Arrow. But at the same time, if I had Arrow, play him this week, 100%. Parramatta's edges haven't been holding up well. So you play him this week, see what happens next week. If he does go ahead with that surgery, then he's a guy you're going to get rid of at that stage. Going through to the other questions here. Grant to Cookie is an interesting one. So Damien Cook is looking like that top fantasy hooker option. The decision here is a bit around, do you want to spend your money on Damien Cook? So I look at my team and I was thinking about a Damien Cook trade as well because I've got Joey Manu to get rid of. I'm thinking I might go with Simpkin instead. And obviously you cop a bit of a points hit, but I don't know if I trust Damien Cook for 750k. I think I'd rather keep the cash free for, 850k for Cleary instead, or go after someone like Isaiah Yeo, or go after, someone like Payne Haas, one of these players, like a real elite gun. That's probably where my head's at. So I'm not super keen on getting Cook now, but at the same time, he is a good hooker. He could be the top hooker in fantasy this year. I've already got Reed Marnie is the only thing, so I'm not really looking to load up on that. And I'd probably rather wait on Harry Grant and buy Harry Grant around 21 or around 20. But if you've already got Grant, it's a tricky one. I think this is a decent trade to make because it's going to be about what it's going to cost you about 100k to go Grant to Cook. You get the player for this week, the player for next week, and I don't know if Souths play round 20. I think they don't play round 20 from memory. But you get that extra player for a bit here. So I don't know what's going on with Harry Grant. We'll have a look at that as we get through as well. Thoughts on Cook as captain? Yeah, this is a good shout against Parramatta. Just keep in mind, though, he has signed with St. George and Mamazelis as their future hooker. So as South Sydney go along, if they fall out of the finals race, Cook is going to be a guy who gets a rest. So just keep that in mind. Cook, Moses, Jerome Hughes as captain this week. Cook's probably the safe one. I have to check out who the Storm are playing. I think they've got a winnable matchup, but depending on that, Jerome Hughes could be the shout as well. All right, then try assist from Latrell. Yeah, for sure. But if he does have a few try assists and doesn't do too much else, that's the tricky part there. And then any other questions on Souths? Do you still go for Grant if you have Robbo and Marnie? It's a tough one. Probably not worth it if you've got those two guys. Robson does tend to fade at the back end of the season. That's the one thing to keep in mind there. But Marnie looks like he's going to be rock solid all the way through. So keep that in mind. And here we go. Yeah, South Sydney, no more buys. So that's actually a really good point in the column of getting Damien Cook. It's part of why we're probably going to target Latrell Mitchell after Origin 3 as well. Here we go. Yeah, Storm versus Tigers. Okay, Jerome Hughes is probably the captain option there. I think in terms of order of captain options this week, if we're looking at players like that, I've got to go Nico Hines versus the Titans as number one. Jerome Hughes versus Tigers is a good shout as well. It's always tricky captaining the Origin guys, but you could look at someone like a Payne Haas, someone like that too. But yeah, Fafita is a good shout as well. They've got a good matchup as well. Teddy, I think, is a bit dicey. He can score that 30-odd game, and he's overdue for one of those. And I'm a Teddy owner, right? But at some point, he's going to have that quieter game where, the Roosters put it together and they play well, but he doesn't do the big stat gathering stuff for them. So just keep that in mind. All right, rolling down through the rest of the team here. So Koloamatangi's at lock. If you have Koloamatangi, stick with him. Is he a good buy? That's a good question, actually. Is Koloamatangi a good buy? I think he's priced up a bit too much now. So there's too much risk that Cam Murray will go back to lock, which would mean Koloamatangi goes back to the edge where he wasn't super impressive. So unless you think South Sydney are going to go on an absolute tear down the stretch this year, I probably wouldn't be getting Koloamatangi myself. Murray is a good option here. So again, I couldn't bring myself to go buy him right now because he plays Origin and there's risk with that. He plays big minutes. He's going to play big minutes in that decider, 100%. So for Cam Murray, I wouldn't be getting him right now. Absolutely not. But I do like him as a target for round 20 or round 21. He's very cheap, very affordable. So yeah, he's a guy I'm going to be targeting at that stage. What hooker would you would you actually be buying? I had JMK. Yeah, JMK is a tough one. Really bad luck there. You had a good buy there, but unfortunately didn't pull up. I'd probably be targeting Simpkin, or you could look at Starling, or you could look at Damien Cook. They're probably the three options there. We'll talk about the hookers as well on buy, hold, sell. So that'll be a topic that we go through in more depth. What are you going to do with Jeremy Marshall-King is the big question there. All right, let's keep rolling through. And actually, I'll just answer a few more of these. So I can't see Trent resting Cook when he's leaving next year. Trent wants wins. Yeah, so the Bunnies probably won't rest Cook necessarily, but they'll want to give Mamazelis minutes down the stretch. So they want Mamazelis to come into 2025 next year with a bit of form, that sort of thing, right? So that's the key thing there. And then let's see, here we go. I am not buying a third Parramatta hooker this year. Mate, they've been disappointing too, 100%. And then any other ones here? Hands to Simpkins sideways. Oh, that's a tough one. That's a really tough one. If Simpkins pretty good, so I view Simpkin as a pretty solid average in that Manly side, especially with the injuries they've had. But Croker could come back at any moment. So if I had Hands, which I don't right now, but if I had Hands, then I would probably hold on to Hands for this week and wait and see next week. Because if you bought Simpkin this week and he didn't play next week, you would be in a terrible, terrible situation. So just keep that in mind. Let's go to the next game here because Mamazelis, Duncan, Burgess, nothing too crazy. Jai Gray on the extended bench. Nothing that's going to really impact game day teams. Sharkies and the Titans, and we're rushing the captains through early here. So a couple of good captain options in this game too. For the Sharkies, we'll go through them first. Big bad Will Kennedy. Atkinson comes back on the wing. So if you held on to Atkinson, which basically no one did, you got him on the wing against the Titans. It's not a bad matchup. I actually would consider playing him. And then we got Ramian, Iro, Mulatalo, Trindle, and Hines. So we'll go through these here. Kennedy's been in okay form lately, but not a guy you'd be looking at for fantasy. Iro, you got to keep him for around 19, but he's not been super convincing. And I don't know. I'm just looking at him, and the attacking stats don't seem to be coming for Iro. So that's the tricky part there. Is he a guy where they're going to come eventually? I don't think he's that big attacking stat guy, but the base is really strong, and he should theoretically be a 40-plus average. So you hang on to him is my view. Would I take a gamble on Mortalo as the thing has been asked a few times? I don't hate it because the matchup's pretty good. They do have the buy in round 20 is the tricky part. I probably wouldn't be using trades on Mulatalo myself. Then Trindle Hines. So Trindle's been taking up a lot of those kick meters lately. Nico Hines, quiet game last week, had a tough day out, right? Like, I don't know, he came into the Origin side, he copped a bit of a beating, he's been carrying some injuries. In that game, he had a few shots to win that game, and Matt Burton just outplayed him at down the stretch there. So I think Nico Hines will be coming out to show out in this game. And I'm pretty confidently saying I'm probably going to captain Nico Hines this week. I like the Titans matchup. I like Nico Hines. I went and bought him for this reason. So I'm just going to stick with it. A couple of questions on Hines here. So can't afford Hines unless I break my team apart. Is it safe to wait a week? Yeah, 100%. So he's got a very high break even. I wouldn't destroy your team to go get him, but I do think he's going to score very big this week. So just keep that in mind. But always do what's best for your team. If it means going a week early, going a week late, so I went early last week, for example, then that's fine as well. Iro beat Herbie. Yeah, me too. I got both of those guys as well. Start Talangi on Marzu. I like Marzu a lot. The matchup's pretty strong too. What to do with Feeder post Origin announcement? Has Feeder been announced for Origin? Didn't see that. If he does get announced, we're going to stick with him anyway because look, he's that guy, right? He's an absolute beast. So we want him down the stretch. So we're going to keep him 100%. Do I think Hines will score better than Hughes? Ooh, tough one to call, but I am captaining Hines over Hughes for my team. I just like the pedigree of Nico Hines a bit better there than Hughes. And then, yeah, good shout. Holden Kohler has been worth it. Now he's named at fullback. We'll get into that when we get to Manly. We'll do a joyride, a victory lap. All of us Kohler owners. I was getting clowned for Kohler, and now he's come back. We are cheering. All right, let's go into the pack for the Sharks. So this is pretty quick. Hazleton, Brayley, Kafusi, Nakora, Talakai, McInnes. Two noteworthy players to talk about here. Nakora is the first one. Nakora scored a try, scored 60 plus. He is that guy, right? So he's kind of that 35 to 40 guy, like we were talking about last week. And you add attacking stats on top of that. He's not going to get attacking stats every week, but the next couple of fixtures are pretty friendly. And if you do need a back rower, I like Nakora quite a bit. Cam McInnes is another one. So I was a little bit anti-McInnes last week just because if you want the numbers for round 19, he's a good option. But I don't view him as a full-time keeper. And I still feel that way. He scored 90 points last week. I still don't think he's going to be a full-time keeper. And I'm a bit iffy about, people were talking about trading like Jack DeBellin out for McInnes or these sorts of moves. And I just don't think it's worth it. I don't think you want to be paying up that much for a guy who's not a full-blown keeper. So for McInnes, I think he's a skip. But if you really like him, if you think he's going to get the minutes down the stretch, that's the big question, then so be it. Give it a crack and have a run at it. But personally, I don't know, if it was positionally independent, I probably prefer Nakora over McInnes just on the value. And McInnes's minutes really do fade when they're at full strength as well. For the bench here, Jack Williams, Royce Hunt, Toby Rudolph, Teague Wilton. So nothing too crazy to talk about here. For the Titans side of the ball, we got Keeney, Cam Pereira, Kelly, Sami, Feeder, Brimson, and Foreign. Yeah, look, noteworthy talk about that AJ Brimson's back. He is in the number 6 jersey. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens when Jaden Campbell comes back, theoretically next week. So I'll bring this up here. So Josh, you've asked, do I think Campbell will come back in the 6 jersey next week? So for Campbell, this is a really tough one. At the start of the year, it would have been Campbell and Brimson who won out on these spots, and Keeney wouldn't have been a part of it. I guess the question you got to ask yourself is, do they value Keeney more than they value the other options here, right? So if they really want to keep Keeney in the team, then they probably move Brimson into the centers and they go Campbell at 6, Keeney at 1. What I think will happen is, and this is just my guess, by the way, so you guys throw your guesses in as well, because none of us are the coaches for the Titans. My view on this is they probably go, it's a hard call. I don't think they really like Campbell as their number 6 long term. My view is they're probably going to go Campbell to 1 and Keeney and Brimson at 6, and I think Keeney will be on the bench. That's what I think is going to happen. I think Campbell's been playing really good for fantasy, but I don't think he's their long-term 6. I think he's a pretty pure fullback, whereas Brimson is actually a bit more of a playmaker. But it's tough because none of these guys are really 5'8". They're all fullbacks, and they're all fantastic fullbacks, and they're all sort of struggling in those other spots. So tough call. It could be anything really. I would hold back on making trades basically on any of this until next week, and when we see what happens. There's also a big chance that they just prolong the issue and Campbell doesn't come back next week. I actually think that's quite likely to happen. He's due back next week, but if he's even in any doubt at all, they'll wait and they'll give him some time, or they'll bring him back off the bench, or they'll do something different. So just keep that in mind. If you're a Campbell owner, I would be slightly ready for the fact, just get yourself emotionally ready for the fact that he might not be back next week. Is Brimson expected fullback? We'll talk about that. Long did you sell? Yeah, I sold Max King when he had the buy. I just needed the extra player. I had a lot of last minute withdrawals and I needed to make that move. Don't hate it. Max King's been hit and miss. And then he was in such good form playing 6 last few weeks. I think it's been more fantasy form than real life form is my view. I think Campbell's had better form in his life at the fullback spot. Personally is what I view it as. Brimson to 14 or center, that's a very likely chance as well. Who are the captain options for this week? We go Nico Hines, Jerome Hughes, Dave Fafita here. And let's actually use that as a segue here because Dave Fafita sitting in the number 11 jersey. So Fodawaker, Verrills, Clark at prop is interesting. He'll get some decent minutes, I would hope, from there. Fafita, Fermor, and Randall. So Randall can score well, but it's a total hit and miss conundrum. It's too late in the season to be mucking around with these guys like Randall. So I wouldn't be jumping on that. Overall for this, look, Fafita is a guy you could captain. It could be an option you look at. Am I convinced on Fafita as a captain? I mean, look, the Sharks' edges aren't rock solid. So Nakora and Talakai both are guys who can be a bit fragile and leak some points. So for that, I think Fafita is a good shout as captain this week as well. He should be rock solid, and he'll probably be thinking about Origin a bit too, right? So he's been fired up lately. Don't mind that at all. He'll be one of the top guys. And if you've got him, yeah, put him in your considerations 100%. For the rest of the Titans team, I'm not really doing too much here. Bahulu's gotten a little bit pricey for what he is. Overall, yeah, I mean, look, you could look at Verrills in draft leagues, maybe. You could look at Aaron Clark in draft leagues, but overall, I don't think there's too much to be done here outside of what we discussed just now. All right, let's go into the next game here. And we do, by the way, guys, we do more general trade questions at the end. So we'll go team by team by team. So try to ask questions about the teams that are on the screen. And then at the end of the video, we go general trade questions, so I'll just answer whatever at that point. So next game here, we got the Broncos and the Panthers. And for the Broncos, we've got Reece Walsh back, Corey Oates, Dean Mariner, Selwyn Cobbo, Jesse Arthurs, Ezra Mam, and Jock Madden. I would assume that Selwyn Cobbo is in the Origin team next week. That's a pretty good shout with the fact that Xavier Coates is out for a while. So I think he'll be in the Origin side. Reece Walsh is interesting. He's playing for his Origin spot right now, and Kalen Ponga is back this week. We're not up to the Knights yet, but when Kalen Ponga comes back, he could make a claim at that fullback spot. So that could be something we keep an eye out for. Would I go and buy Reece Walsh because of it? Probably not, but it is worth keeping an eye on. Reece Walsh is kind of in that category where he's not quite a full-blown keeper, but he's very close to it. So if he doesn't get picked for Origin, he could be a pod you look at that stage. Rest of the back line, I'm not super interested in. Adam Reynolds is back in round 22. So keep that in mind. It just plays into Jock Madden and all that. And if you're in a draft league as well and you're sitting up the top of the table, Adam Reynolds is probably on the waivers right now. So you could probably go and make that move as well. So A-Ray, round 22. Corey Jensen, Billy Walters, Payne Haas, Brennan Piakura, Kobe Hetherington on the edge, and then Paddy Carrigan. Could be a late swap in this forward pack. So we could see Kobe Hetherington in jersey 12 switching with Carrigan in jersey 13. And we could see Paddy Carrigan going to the edge just because he's a bit more of a lateral mover. He's a very effective defender. He can play on the edge as well as he plays in the middle, basically. So that could be the move. Hetherington, I view as a bit more of a middle forward, pretty exclusively. Tyson Smoothie had a good game last week, but he's pretty pricey. Xavier Wilson had a good game, but he's very pricey. Overall, I don't think it's worth chasing these guys. So having a look at, Xavier Wilson or Corey Jensen scored 60 last week as well. I think they're too expensive for the time of year, right? So if we were in round 14 and they were playing round 16 and 19 buys, yeah, we could have that conversation, but it's just too late right now at 400, 500K. It's too expensive. Piakura. A lot of questions about Piakura. Just keep holding Piakura. It sounds like you're talking to yourself here. Yeah, you could. You probably have to at this point. He plays round 19, so it's not the worst shout. Yo, Haas or Carrigan, if you had to choose one. So my view on this is that Yo and Haas are better than Carrigan for fantasy, but I would say Haas is better than Yo when they're both fully fit, but Yo is more durable than Haas. So at the end of the season, low on trades, I'd probably say Yo over Haas is my perspective there. Wilson, peak, I would keep him for round 19 because he'll crush it in round 19. They'll have all their Origin players out. Piakura, yep, I'd hold him 100%. He plays round 19. Stick with that. Anyone who plays round 19 is a hold. Even Fletcher Sharp right now, hold on to them. See what happens. They're going to be numbers for you. You don't want to be buying too many more players for round 19. If you're a bit short, that's okay as well. Jerome Hughes off of feeder as captain. Probably Hughes, but it's a total coin toss. Totally up to you. Watson Gunn, especially at 13. Yeah, he's a weapon. Would I go get him right now? Maybe. I mean, you could make the case for it. He doesn't play round 19 is the tough part, and he plays Origin, so keep that in mind. But overall, he is one of the best of the best. And when he gets that hooker dual position, that's going to be really valuable as well. Scotty Sorensen a hold. Of course he is. He scored 50 points last week. He's 550k, dual position. I'm going to stick with him for a while. I think I'm going to stick with him for a bit. Is Sharp to price a good trade? I'm not that into it. I would rate for round 19. So Sharp, like Kalen Pong is being rushed back 4 weeks early, right? So Sharp has a chance to get back into the team. Keep that in mind. I would stick with him. Corey Jensen in, pretty pricey. Lockie, who writes for the Casual Athlete, actually bought him last week. So keep an eye on our blogs on thecasualathlete.com.au because that's where Lockie is, and he's got some pretty smart picks going on in there. Olakawatu, 650k. Yeah, after Origin. Wait for after Origin. That's my advice there. Wait till after Origin to buy Yo. I think so. Yeah, he didn't get a rest with all the other Origin players, so he will get a rest at some point is my view on that. Could I captain Cook? Yep, you can captain Cook. And then this is tricky. Price and Tungo. So Price scored like 40, 45 points with a try. I'm not that convinced. I think he'll go on a bit of a run here because they have good fixtures, but overall, I don't think he's a keeper level guy, and he's a bit pricey for what he is. Tungo has no job security whatsoever. So Lemuel, Lumi could come in, as well as Morgan Harper could come in. There's quite a few guys that could step into that spot for Parramatta. I would wait 1 week. The worst thing you could possibly do is buy a guy this week for round 19, and then next week team lists come out and you're screwed because they actually didn't keep their spot. That's my advice there. Haas is captain. Yeah, don't mind that at all. I think this is going to be a battle through the middle, and I think Haas will be a big part of it. We'll get to Weeks as well, and Terrell and Watson. We'll go through the Roosters as well too. We'll go through those teams when we get to those sides, guys. So for the Panthers, Dylan Edwards, Taruba, Tungo, Alamotti, Toe, Cole, and Luai. Is Nathan Cleary on the extended bench? He is not. Schneider is. Cleary's not. Okay, there was a bit of talk that Cleary might be back for round 18. It's worth noting, but he's not back this week. He'll be back probably round 20 is my estimation then. So with Cleary not back, it means that Tungo stays pretty average for fantasy. Look, he's 420k. He's not going to get much cheaper, right? So I'll just answer that now because actually a few people are asking about Tungo. So Jack, you're there. Jack also. A lot of Jacks asking about Tungo. Yeah, for Tungo, look, he's 420k. He's a guy who at some point this year, I reckon, will bounce right back up. And he's been priced at 750k this year at one point. So I think when Cleary comes back, Tungo will get a bunch of ball and he'll bounce right back up to fantasy relevancy. So for Tungo, look, if you want to get him right now, I don't think he scores big in this game. I'm not picking that. But I think he's a guy who, at the price he's at, is 200k undervalued for what he's going to be for you. So if you want to get a guy at that price point and we're low on trades and you want to move to Tungo right now, not the worst option. Yeah, I could see someone doing that and it not being a bad move. Kohler, captain. We'll go through Kohler when we go to Manly, but I am very excited about this. Very excited. He's got his fullback jersey back. We held on. We deserve this. We deserve this. Toa worth a buy. He plays Origin next week, so I wouldn't do it necessarily. Maybe wait till round 20 if you do want to make that move, but Dylan Edwards is better, for example, right? There's quite a few other fullbacks that are better options than him. Tungo, a Kohler for security. I mean, security is Tungo, but Kohler is upside. That's the key there. And it had Tungo ever since Taylor May got dumped. Yeah. sorry, Marcy, mate. That's a rough one. Can you make a video discussing your trades sometime during the week? Yeah, I can do that. I'll probably do that on Instagram or on TikTok. So I do a lot of reels and that kind of thing on Instagram and TikTok. Just check it out. It's the.casual.athlete on Instagram or TikTok. I'll do some reels on my trades this week because I might make 1 or 2 trades this week. I've got Joey Manu, who's a problem. And obviously we're going to talk about KO Weeks as well, who's at fullback, which is not as good for him. All right, let's keep rolling through these teams. So the backline here, I'm not doing too much here. Luai is very expensive. He was an interesting option before Origin. He's popped off. He's expensive now. Tungo, we talked about him. Alamotti, I'm not that keen. I thought he was going to be better, actually, at that spot. And I never got on, but I was waiting for him to really have that big game to make me do it. Dylan Edwards is a keeper level wing fullback. So if you have him, hold on to him. If you don't, wait till round 20 to make that move. Forward pack, Leota, Kenny, Fisher Harris, Sorensen, Martin, Yo. We're looking at a lot of guys here who were really good options a while ago. So Sorensen, it's a bit late to be jumping on him. He doesn't play round 19. Fisher Harris has been on fire. He will not maintain that after Origin. Absolutely won't maintain that. So I wouldn't be getting on Fisher Harris now. It's too late. For the rest of them, let's see, Martin. Yeah, nah. Isaiah Yo's the one to look at. You could get him now. You get him around 20. It's up to you. He's pretty solid. Usually doesn't have much for rest. But at the same time, they've got Lindsay Smith, Liam Henry, and Matt Eisenhuth on the bench. And then, the extended bench has no one too noteworthy, but they could easily give him a rest this week. Or if they're on top in this game, which I think they will be, then he can get a rest down the stretch. I'd probably wait till after round 19 to get Origin players is the general advice. Let's see. Oh, nice, man. So yeah, finished up at rank 10. That is red hot. That's a really good spot. What are you, about 100 points behind first? 150 points behind first? That's striking distance, man. If you can nail round 19 and have a good squad down the stretch, you're in a great spot. Watson or Yo, same price in both Origin. Yo is more reliable, but Watson is less likely to get a rest. That's the key there. Watson's the crazy option. So Watson has more upside. Watson also has the hooker cover. So if you value that, that's awesome. Yo is the guy, though. Like, he's been that guy for a long time. So it depends if you want the stability or the upside, basically. That's the key there. JMK, I haven't seen the confirmation, but it's looking like it's long term. So probably going to be a while, man. I'm sorry to say that. And then I'm third, taking first by round 20. Good shout, man. Well, I'm keen to keep up with that. So yeah, good luck this week. Let's know what trades you're doing this week as well. All right. Could I buy garlic or tupanua? Not great. Let's wait for the. Here we go. Yeah, JMK up to 10 weeks. Yeah, it's a long injury, potentially season. Brabham Best or Tungo. Brabham Best is the first reserve for the Origin side, so I wouldn't buy him this week, just in case there are injuries or anything like that. So I would maybe look at him next week. Although he has a good matchup this week, that's a tough one. Probably Best is pretty expensive. That's pretty expensive for Best. Parker comes back. I probably rate Tungo down the stretch, but Best plays round 19. Best is a super pod. It's very risky, but it has big upside. All right, next game here. Doggies and the Warriors, Saturday at 3 p.m. Great slot for a game. I love a day game footy. So for the Doggies, we've got Tracy, Karaz, Zeri, Crichton, Wilson. We've got Burton and Sexton. For this backline, pretty much regulation. They don't play round 19. I don't think there's anything really to talk about here. Stephen Crichton has had a couple of very, very big games for fantasy. He's cooled off last week. There's nothing really noteworthy than that. Matt Burton's been solid, but not quite at that top keeper level. And we got guys like Hines, Hughes, Cleary coming back soon as well. Probably not the jump for him. So we look at the questions here. Yeah, nothing else too crazy. Karaz to Best. I probably wouldn't be selling Karaz. I know it's a tough one. I think Karaz is the guy you're going to hold on to down the stretch. Good dual position and doesn't play Origin or anything like that. For Burton, Sexton, nothing too crazy there. Forward pack, we've got King, Marnie, Hughes, Kickow, Salmon, Hayward. Again, probably not buying too many of these guys. Mann is back as well, so worth noting that Kurt Mann eats up a lot of minutes in the middle. Then Curran, Morin, Hopboy. There's nothing really too noteworthy to talk about here. So if you have Reed Marnie, I think you hold on to Reed Marnie. He's a guy that's locked in as a borderline keeper level hooker, if not a keeper level hooker. So he's been that guy. So I'm hanging on to Reed for the rest of the year. If you got Max King, I mean, he got a good score last week. Right? So you hold on to him this week and see what happens. But I would be open to selling him next week or the week after because he's not a full level keeper. Kickow carrying an injury last week. So just keep an eye on that. Is Preston somewhere? Yeah, wow. Okay, no Jacob Preston. That's interesting to see. Skelton's out as well. So no Jacob Preston. If you have Preston, I don't know. What are you going to do there? Like, you probably want to sell him, right? Like, he's not a full-blown keeper. Here we go. Yeah, a few questions going through. So Ben, Blake. I think he's not a full-blown keeper. That's my view on it. He'll come back at some point. He'll play all right, but he's not getting 80 minutes when Kickout's in. So Preston, I would sell 100%. We'll go to DeBellin when we get to the Dragons too. Yeah, Preston, another Twal and Harry. Yeah, a lot of guys just randomly missing heaps of games. It's really tough to forecast this year. The Warriors, CNK. A lot of questions about CNK, so I'll get to that in a sec. Then Watini Lesniak, RTS, Pompey, Montoya, Harris Tavita, and Martin. So firstly, a shout out to anyone who got Harris Tavita last week. Man, 2 tries, 50 points. Can't complain about that for 260K, right? That's a good shout. I still reckon he's not that guy for fantasy, though. So if you don't have him now, don't go and do it. Like, don't do it to yourself. He produces so many 10 to 20 point scores. I like him in real life. I think he's a very enthusiastic player. I don't really understand why he's not better for fantasy, because he's quite physical and he's a good ball runner and all that, but just doesn't rack up fantasy points. So no go with him. Tamari Martin is, if he was playing round 19, would be an option, but I don't think we want to do it without round 19. CNK, would I hold or sell him? You could sell him. I'm not rushing to sell CNK, right? So I'll just pop this up actually. So I wouldn't be rushing to sell CNK, but at the same time, he's not a full-blown keeper. So if you can make a move with him, make that move, but just try to target a guy who you think is a keeper. Because if you move CNK to another guy, you're going to have to trade out in 2 weeks, then you're kind of screwing yourself over. So you want to go either to a full-blown gun or to a cheapie. Make one of those moves, because at this stage of the year, we don't want to be messing around with too many mid-ranges unless we think they have the upside to go big. So Ryan Madison is an example of that, where I think Ryan Madison has 50-point average upside, maybe even a little higher than that, because he's done it before, especially starting in the back row. So for Ryan Madison, he's a guy where you could potentially foresee that. But CNK, I just don't see him competing with Dylan Edwards, James Tedesco, Latrell Mitchell, these sorts of guys. And yeah, let's keep rolling through. Any other questions here? CNK to Ponga is absolutely insane, but I expect nothing less from Dom Toretto. CNK to Ponga, would I do that? You could do it. You could do it. So there are reasons to do this. Ponga is a super pod. He is a super pod. It's been a long stint on the sidelines, and there's a lot of risk of re-injury when you come back, especially 4 weeks early. I wouldn't do this move, but there's a 10% chance that this just pops off and you just go crazy and this pod makes it for you. I think there's a higher chance that something goes wrong here, or it's a slow start, or, that sort of thing, right? So personally, I wouldn't do it, but if you want to make that move, I respect the bravery. Don't let me talk you out of it. Marzu, a keeper for CNK. I actually don't mind this. Marzu, when Ponga's back, is a beast for fantasy. He's very cheap as well, so you free up some cash. So I actually like that move quite a bit. What's more urgent, CNK or Weeks? Oh, it's probably got to be Weeks, right? Like, Fogarty's back round 20. That's the key there, right? So, yeah. Thoughts on trading Sharp to Greg Marzu? I think Sharp has a chance of being in the team next week, just because Pong has been rushed back, right? So you just want to keep an eye on that. He might be a late withdrawal. There might be, a niggle or something like that. I just reckon that you keep Sharp this week. Just stick with Sharp for 1 more week and see what happens. All right, let's keep going with the Warriors here. So a couple of questions about Ford. Yeah, Ford, if you've got Ford, he's a sell 100%. For the rest of the Ford pack, AFB, Egan, Barnett, Niokora, Capewell, Harris, and we've got Lussick, Walker, Tavanga, and Ford. What are we doing with this? Adam Fennell-Blake's been really disappointing, but I wouldn't be selling him yet. Just give him 1 more week, at least. We were hoping he'd be a keeper for the rest of the year. This matchup isn't the best or the worst, really. The Dogs' middles are pretty small, though. So you've got, Max King and Sam Hughes are solid enough, but then Reed's a bit smaller. Hayward's a very small starting lock. Man comes on as well. Fennell-Blake could grab a try in this game. Could bounce back. Let's wait and see with Fennell-Blake, but I think you hold on to Fennell-Blake for at least 1 more week, and he's a guy that you could upgrade to a top gun if you want to after round 19, but hold on to him this week. Mitch Barnett, getting a few questions about him as well. He's very expensive. So if I was looking at Barnett, I view Barnett as a worse version of Cam McInnes, right? Because he doesn't play round 19. Very solid scorer. Doesn't play round 19, though. So I'm not that interested in that. Capewell, is he a pod? What's Capewell priced at? What's Capewell's price? Because, If he's cheap enough, maybe, but I don't think he's cheap enough to consider it. So I'm probably going to say no to Capewell unless he's like 350k. But yeah, probably not for Capewell, especially with Jackson Ford sitting on the bench and Ford being arguably a better back rower as well. Egan's an interesting shout. So Egan's around the mid 400s right now, which is tricky. If you've got Egan, good shout. If you don't have Egan and you are short a second hooker and you don't want to buy one of the top hookers, he's not the worst option, right? So he hasn't been playing 80 minutes is the downside. The injuries have been really bad as well. But Egan has that potential to go, 50 average down the stretch. So it could be an option we look at. I don't mind him as a round 20 option. So I think what's going to happen with my team is I'm probably going to save some cash for round 20. And then I'm going to buy guys like Tungo and Egan as cash outs and then get the top guns from the other players. So that's where my head's at for a guy like Wade Egan. I would consider it for round 20, especially if he plays 80 minutes in this game. Tohu Harris is a sell. He was in our trap segment last week. I hope no one jumped on. He's an awesome player, right? He's been an awesome player for a long time, but the minutes aren't going to be there. He's at a bit of an older age as well. So why would they wreck him for 80 minutes when they've got guys like Jazz Tavanga, Dylan Walker, who can come on and play in the middle as well? So I think Tohu's a pretty firm sell. If he played round 19, we'd hold, but otherwise, no go there. Thoughts on Hines? I'll reiterate this one. I reckon he crushes against the Titans. If you can buy him this week, go buy him this week. And I'm going to be captaining Nico Hines this week as well. But I sometimes stick with the pedigree players a little too long. So, just full disclosure, I could be off the money there too. This is a big one. RTS, biggest disappointment this year in terms of fantasy. Yeah, he was overpriced from the jump. At center, it's a tough spot to play and get big points, especially he doesn't have the work rate of a guy like Jacob Kraz, for example, which is tough, right? Kraz is unmatched in that area. It's very tough to be a high-scoring fantasy center in a team that's not going well. So for RTS, tough one here. We'll go into Grant in a bit. Phil Sammy is absolutely insane. If you want to do it, it could work, but I don't like it at all. And then Wilds look better with Walker at 13. Yeah, Walker he's got a bit of pace about him, a bit more of a playmaker, ex-half, ex-center. That's the big one there. Grant was given a mid-year rest. Yeah, that looks like it. He doesn't play huge minutes in Origin, though, so I'm a bit surprised. But I think Harry Grant could tear up down the stretch. We'll just wait and see what the injury is there, if there is one. If not, then, yeah, it could be an option we look at. Let's keep rolling through here. So Tigers versus Storm. And this is one where a few of you guys are asking about captains. So let's talk about this game. So for the Tigers, Dream Buller, Luke Lalili, Solomon Fairtape, we got Dwayhe, Staines, Galvin, and Caesar. Okay. Pretty similar backline to previous weeks. We'll have a look at Dwayhe as well. So we do a guess the score thing in our buy, hold, sell videos. So all you have to do is comment the score of a player who, we put up. So last week it was Dwayhe. I think he scored 26 points from memory. So I'm sure someone would have guessed 26 points. That's a pretty regular score. Overall, though, this team here, look, Galvin's a guy I'm going to hold on to for quite a while, unless he sort of falls off the rails. The rest of it, I have less than zero interest in for the back line. Forward pack here, Atoka Manu, Coruscant, Pole, Bateman, Fainu, and Matamua. So worth having a look here. Look, Alex Seyfarth, his stocks went down quite a bit. I'll actually want to just ask about that too, so I'll just throw that in. I don't have Seyfarth, but I think Biz might have Seyfarth. If I did have Seyfarth, I would have been holding him the last few weeks. Now I would be reconsidering, but you probably still keep him, right? You keep him just for round 19, and then you live with it. Definitely hold Finu, 100%. Totally agree with that. Galvin, a season keeper. I think he could be. He could be a season keeper. Let's just see if he holds up, right? Because the Tigers they're hit and miss, right? If they go on a cold run and, Galvin sort of drops off in terms of the scores, then maybe he falls off and we don't make that move and keep him. Maybe we have to sell him at some point. We'll keep an eye on that. But right now I'm going to say yes, with the caveat that he's a rookie. He's 18 years old. He's playing for a team that, he's being asked to do a lot is basically what I'm getting at there. We'll talk about Blore in a sec as well, Jack, but let's go through the bench here. So Mason, Finu, Seyfarth, Clemmer, nothing to talk about there. Stormside, Pappenhausen, Warbrick, Anderson, Howarth, Bradley, Wishart, and Hughes. surely Cam Munster is back soon. I'm expecting Cam Munster back around 20 to 21. That is when the Hughes party ends. So we probably got 1 or 2 more big scores from Hughes before Munster comes back and Hughes becomes more of a 50 to 55 average instead of this 60 to 65 he's doing right now. So yeah, Hughes, if you got him this week, good captain option. He's one of the top 5. Could be someone you jump onto there. Pappenhausen was out last week. He's back in this week. I'm kind of surprised that Fa'alongo is on the bench in the 14 jersey instead of, in the 5 jersey over a Kane Bradley, for example. But that could be a late change they make as well. So if you are a Fa'alongo owner, I think he's a guy who he could be a late move into the starting side and he could absolutely kill it against the Tigers as well. They've been exploited a bit on the wings. So yeah, keep Fa'alongo or maybe just hold Su'a and make your trade for Su'a an hour before the game. So if you go into the NRL app, you can actually see the team lists updated. So wait on that. If Su'a gets into the starting side at the last minute, keep him. He'll score well this week. If not, then you can sell him off for someone who plays after this. That's my advice there. Nelson Asofa-Solomon has started the last 2 weeks. Good shout there as well. He could easily come into the starting side. Could be anything there. For the forward pack, let's go through it. Kamika, Garlic, King, Blore, Katoa, and Loiero. We got Fa'alongo, Welch, Asofa-Solomon, and Chan on the bench. What are we going to do here? Sean Blore. So do we hold Sean Blore is the question I'm getting a lot. 42 points to the try was terrible. He started off pretty good, and I thought he was going to go on with it and have a big score, and it was just a bit of a disaster. Look, my view on Sean Blore, Eli Katoa, these sorts of guys is you hold them for this game, right? So the Tigers can leak points. These guys could play well. They could grab some attacking stats. Could be some offloads. I reckon you hold on to them this week and you reassess next week. So anyone who's playing this week, my view is mostly that you wait a week and you try to minimize the number of trades you're making for round 19 and try to maximize the number of trades you have available to buy full-blown guns. So for Katoa and Vats, good question there. Has Katoa hit his peak? I think Katoa is a guy who I think he could be a keeper, right? So he could be close to a keeper. I'm probably going to try and hold on to him. I think this is a good matchup, so stick with him overall. Stefano, fair question. Also, Sean, stop asking the same question, bro. Like, come on, chill. Thoughts on Stefano? I wouldn't go and buy him, but if I had him, I'd hold on to him. That's my advice there. Will Hughes be selling when Munster returns? Yeah, I reckon his average drops from about 65 to 55 is my view there. Katoa needs Meaney. Well, I don't really think he needs Meaney. Do you think keep Hughes? I'll probably keep Hughes for a while. If his scores fall off, then I'll consider selling him later on. Reed Money a buy. For a head-to-head coach, absolutely. For overall, it's very hard to buy Reed over Cook, right? Unless you have the hooker already for round 19, then he could be a good option for you. Get Pap. I'm not into it. He could score big, but he was out last week with the injury. The fantasy scores haven't been consistent. It's not ideal. I'm probably not going to jump on that. So for the rest of the forward pack here, nothing too crazy to talk about. I'm not overreacting to Loiero. I think there's too many minutes on this bench where Welch, Asofa-Solomon, Chan, they can all steal some minutes. So I'm not doing that. But I would hold on to most of these Melbourne players. Wouldn't necessarily rush to buy too many of them because they don't play round 19. Cowboys and Seagulls. So Cowboys do not play round 19. The Seagulls do. Seagulls fresh off a bye as well. And we're going to talk about Kohler after we go through the Cowboys. So get ready for the quickest team review that you've ever seen because I want to talk about Kohler. So for the Cowboys, Drinkwater, Felt, Holmes, Vilea, Taulagi, Dearden, Townsend. There is nothing to talk about here except for Scott Drinkwater. Is Scott Drinkwater a hold? Is he a sell? Jack, you've asked it. Drink, you sell. Jim, you've asked it. Scott Drinkwater, a sell. Vats, you've asked it. Drinkwater, a sell. A few others have asked too. For Scotty Drinkwater, it's a tough one. So he's at a pretty premium price, but I wouldn't force it. I wouldn't force myself to sell Scott Drinkwater. So if you have Drinky and it makes sense for your team to hold him this week, hold him this week. He's probably a guy that you're more likely to sell in round 20 than you are right now. If you have a trade this week where it's benefited massively from selling Drinkwater, go and do it. I don't mind that at all, but I wouldn't force the trade. I don't think he's a disaster. I think he'll score well against Manly. I think Manly are a bit vulnerable right now too. They've had quite a few changes to their backline, so I think Drinkwater is going to be solid this week. For the forward pack, we got McLean, Robson, Tamalolo, Lukey, Nanai, and Cotter. Robson has another game of origin in him. Just hasn't been a great backing up option so far. So, Cotter. If you've got Cotter and you held him through last week, you could possibly hold on to him going forward. I don't hate it. Lukey, he's all right. He's a pseudo keeper. I don't hate selling that. They all don't play around 19. That's the big thing. So if they're not a full blown keeper, which basically none of the Cowboys are, then you can move them on. Basically, is my thoughts there. Robson, I think you could definitely sell him. So Robson to Cook is something we talked about earlier. Not a bad shout. I love the fade too. Jack Drinky 82 this week. Yeah, you got to back your guy. You got to back the bounce back 100%. All right, let's go into, because all you guys are asking Manly questions. So I'll go into Manly here. By the way, don't overreact to McIntyre. He scored well last week, but he's not going to do that going forward. So for Manly, we got Kohler in number 1. Kohler, let's go. Saab, Trbojevic, Garrick, Talau, Brooks, and Cherry Evans. One of the better center pairings that we've seen in a while. So Turbo back at center. Look, there's a few things to note here. Turbo is not a locked-in center for the long term. It's not guaranteed to stay that way. It could change even during this game, right? So the first question you got to ask yourself is, are Manly going to win some games, right? I think Cole is a super talented guy at fullback. I'm just having a look at the fixtures now, actually, because Manly have the Cowboys this week. And then who have they got in round 19? Remember, they're missing all their origin players. It's going to be a tough game. They got the Knights, who they could get beat up in that game potentially. The Knights, and then they got the Titans. I think it's a good run of fixtures. So yeah, I'm pretty hyped on the fact that they'll probably stay in this configuration. That's my view there. So that probably leads into the question: would you buy Kohler? So Trent, you've asked that. Manu to Kohler. I like that trade. You got Manu. You're forced to make a move. Kohler is cheap, and if he's at fullback, he's an absolute beast. Tolu Kohler or Mazu. Kohler's got higher upside. The question is, all right, so you got to take a risk either way. They're both guys who can average 50 plus. Kohler, his challenge is the positional security. Does Turbo take the fullback spot? There is a chance that happens. Mazu's issue is the form of himself and the Knights. So does Mazu's form bounce back is the question there. Whichever one you're backing more, because they both have risk. I would probably go Kohler for the dual position, but you can make a case for Mazu as well. It depends what narrative you want to buy, right? So when we talk about these options, where the question I want to ask you is, which story do you want to buy? Kohler goes on a tear, forces Turbo to stay at the center spot, or Mazu gets hot and the Knights get hot with Ponga back. Which of those stories do you like more? Buy the one you like more. Is Turbo looking like a buy? Absolutely not at center. Let's let that one ride for a bit and we'll figure it out later on. But I'd need to see something big from Turbo to change my mind on that one. Captain Wishart is crazy. Kohler to kill it with defense, too bothered about Turbo. Hopefully, yeah, I mean, Kohler's a freak, man. Especially next to Olakau'atu. So the Rugby League writers, they did a piece with us on Kohler. I'm going to repost it, actually. I'm just going to repost it. Stuff it. It's the same content. But Kohler coming up next to Olakau'atu is really effective. Simpkin a buy. Yeah, Simpkin. I really like Simpkin. Let's see the bench here. So Carl Lawton, Chang Kum Tong, but we have no sign of Croker. That's the big one. If Croker stays out, Simpkin is a red hot option. Very good price. Where's Lehigh lay off the bench? Probably injury cover. The challenge there is he's pretty much an out-and-out fullback. So if there is an injury, Kohler could move and Lehigh could go to hop fullback. There's a bit of risk in that. That could absolutely happen. Full-blown keeper. So what does this mean? Can I explain that? So what I talk about there is ideally at the end of the season, you want to have a team where your 1 to 17 is the best players at those positions, right? So they have to be the best or close to the best. So at wing fullback, for example, Dylan Edwards has been one of the best. Latrell's been one of the best. Then probably Tedesco is that other guy. So you're probably trying to have those three guys. So when we talk about Reece Walsh or Scotty Drinkwater, in my view, they're a bit shy of full-blown keepers. So they're guys who are good options, and they're in that top 5, top 10, but they're not full-blown keepers. It's the same with a guy like Paddy Carrigan, right? So I would rather own players like Payne Haas, Isaiah Yeo, Connor Watson, these types of guys over Paddy Carrigan. I think they're a 5 to 10 point improvement. So I'm okay with selling guys like that who aren't full-blown keepers And I think you want to be trying to buy those keepers as well. So Dave Fafita, he's a full-blown keeper. Even if he played Origin and Origin 3, I'd still hold on to him because I want him in my final side. So that's the big question. Do you want that player in your final team? Then you're going to be more patient with them is the answer. All right, let's keep rolling through here for this Manly side. So yeah, Kohler, red hot option. Turbo, don't go buy him. Ruben Garrick, if you have him, stick with him. Tommy Talau keeps his spot. The legend, Tommy Talau. Then Brooks, DCE. DCE could be an option we look at after Origin. He's very cheap. Sipley, Simpkin, Aloye, Olakawatu, Turbo. We talked about Sipley before round 16. He scored 57 points, I think it was. So he's a guy who's looking like holding a good spot there. If you need a middle forward, I like Sipley more than I like Jensen or Willison personally, just because I think he's got more PPM in the tank and he doesn't need the big minutes. I would go Sipley over Brown as well, Jacob. 100%. Yeah, Sipley's got that starting spot this week. Prioritize for that. Easy shout. And I'll just have a look at these. Herbie to Kohler. No, don't do that. Herbie plays round 19. Stick with him. Olakawatu buy after Origin. You could do it now if you want to, but I would wait till after Origin. Thoughts on Lukey? Doesn't play round 19. If you play round 19, I'd consider it, but I don't like the minutes. And I don't like the fact he doesn't play round 19. With Chad signing with the Roosters, who would be the replacement? Probably Clifford. Clifford would be the guy, but that'll be later on. Captain Moses or Cook? Probably leaning towards Cook gently, but I'm not super high on either of them as captain options for this week. Do I hold DCE? Yeah, hold on to DCE. If you've got him at this point, you might as well hold on. He could be a really good option for you. Matto or Sipley. Matto 100%. Like, easy choice there. Start Whiten or Blaze. I would loophole. Oh, they both play at the same time. I would probably loophole one of them and use someone else. So maybe start Whiten and loophole Blaze. And then if Blaze goes well, you can loophole him into your starting team. All right, let's go through the rest of the team here. So bench has nothing too crazy to talk about. Burbo keeps scoring well. But we're not going to go into that. Roosters and the Dragons up now. So for the Chookies and the Dragons, you've got Teddy, Tupou, Jennings, Tupanua, Young. We've got Kiri and Walker. Teddy's in form. Again, these guys don't play round 19, so I'm not really rushing to buy anyone here. If Tupanua had a longer-term spot at center, I'd be pretty interested in him. He's a good option there. But overall, I'm not sort of jumping out of my skin to buy any of these guys. If I have Tedesco, obviously I'm hanging on to him. If I had Dom Young, I'd hang on to him as well. He's had some wet weather games where he's still managed to score well. It's pretty crazy. Kiri, Walker are not full-blown keepers. They're pretty inconsistent. So one of them normally scores 50 plus and the other one scores like 30 every week. And it's they're taking turns basically, right? So not super keen on them. I'm super open to selling them if you want to sell them at this stage. Forward pack, JWH, Brandon Smith, Lindsay Collins, Gus Crichton, Victor Radley, Connor Watson. So Brandon Smith has been falling into some pretty big minutes lately. Look, he's pretty cheap, right? So Brandon Smith's a guy where if he gets hot again, awesome option. But is he going to get hot is the question. I can't say with any confidence that he will, right? That's the hard part. So probably I'm not going to recommend it. But if you do want to get a super pod, Brandon Smith's pretty crazy. JWH, a good pod. That is crazy, man. I feel like I'm reading a message from 2016. No, don't do that. He gets a rest here and there. He's a pretty old player, right? It's like as much as he's a monster, really good footballer, he's not going to get the minutes. Mazu, Tungo, or Kohler probably goes Kohler, Mazu, Tungo in that order. Manu to Mazu, save the money for Cleary. Yeah, I like this a lot. Yeah, so hold some cash and save that money for the big upgrades in round 20. I like those trades. Don't waste your time with mid-ranges right now. I'm going to do the same thing, by the way, this week. So I'm probably going to get Simpkin instead of Cook, actually, is what I'm thinking about doing. Save the cash, get the big upgrades in round 20, jump straight into those Origin players. Watson had 40 and 30 minutes before he's moved to center and scored 10 and 50. Yeah, at center, he's not great. In the forwards, he's awesome. Manu, yeah, sell. 100% a sell, unless you're really low on trades. Thoughts on May? I am selling stocks in that. I reckon May will fade when the minutes dry up, which they will dry up because this forward pack is so overblown. Pod just means a point of difference player. So they're someone who basically no one has. And, or they're a rare player. So when they score really well, it's awesome. You fly up the ranks. they score poorly, you get cooked. So that's the risk with them. Gun 40. I'm not getting burnt the season for Brendan Smith this year. He's got me too many times. Man, everyone's got that story with Brendan Smith, hey? And then why isn't May starting over Jared Warrior-Hargraves? I mean, JWH is that guy. He's been that guy for 10 years, so that's the key there. All right, so for the rest of the forward pack here, look, Connor Watson's a stud. If you want to go do that move right now, don't mind it. Gus Crichton's getting cheap, so Gus Crichton's a guy I'll be looking at around 21, probably. Probably not around 20 straight away, but he's getting cheaper. Around 21, I like the idea of upgrading to Gus Crichton. For the Dragons here, we got Sloan, Lomax, Sully, Finai, Tupolotu, Flanagan, and Hunt. Is our backline? Nothing really to talk about here. I'm going to skip past it unless you guys have questions. For the forward pack, Frankie Molo, Little, DeBellin, Fatala Mariner, Sua, and Eisenhuth. These guys just randomly get huge scores, man. So, like, if you guys are asking about Little, so Little, is he too expensive? Yes, he is too expensive. Little has a hot month and a cold month, and it just bounces back and forth all the way through his career. I like Little quite a bit, but just hasn't been consistent for fantasy. So, yeah, he's too expensive 100%, especially since they are signing Damien Cook as well. So I don't think they view him as a long-term guy. DeBellin is an interesting one to talk about here, so thoughts on him. Obviously, we're going to hold on to DeBellin at this stage. He plays around 19. That was the advice last week. He scored 65 last week, so it's even more the advice this week. Stick with him, play him around 19, trade him out in round 20. That's the move. Fatala Mariner, 67, yeah, he has massive scores. So he was the top scorer 1 week, actually, about a month ago. Goes huge and then just disappears from the team, basically. So I'm not falling into that one, but the Dragons do play around 19, so could be a pod that pays off. Captain Watson or Teddy. I like Watson better than Teddy. Watson's unstoppable. Fred May for which mid of watch, buy, hold, sell. That's all I'll say there. Keon, a buy. Yeah, he's pretty expensive. That's my view on him. Terrell to Watson now. That's an upgrade. That's a pretty big upgrade. Little, a good player, Earl, not so much fantasy. Yeah, up and down, inconsistent. That's the key there. And how will Young score with Tupanua? I think Young scores fine. Young scores tries, man. And he's going to score tries this week as well. I'd be interested to know. So Young plays on the right. Lomax is also on the right, I believe. Is Lomax on the right? If Young is up against Topolatu, that's going to be a tough speed matchup, 100%. Sua to play Origin. Yeah, Sua's been in good form. I think he should keep that spot. Sell Hughes for Cleary in round 20. 100%. That's a decent option, but I don't know. I wouldn't be rushing to sell Hughes unless Munster comes back and Hughes' scores drops. I would look at some other players instead, personally. All right, so skipping past the Dragons because Luciano's still on the bench as well. Probably worth noting if you have him in draft leagues. I got him in a couple of drafts, but nothing too noteworthy to talk about for the Dragons. So next up here, and we'll go through captains and trades in a sec, guys, too. So we'll just finish this last game and then we'll go through those trade questions, so all your trade questions. But for the Raiders, KO Weeks, Jordan Rapana, Matt Tomoko, Albert Hopewadi, Xavier Savage. We've got Ethan Strange and Adam Cook. Look, I wouldn't read into Adam Cook too much. I was thinking about it last week and I was getting a bit excited seeing his big score and thinking, oh, you know what? I'm going to cash out to Adam Cook. I'm going. Not going to do it. Not going to do it. Like, Fogarty's back in round 20-ish. That's really soon. Cook, I think he'll just fall right out of the team. I think KO Weeks will stay at fullback. They want to keep Weeks in the team. They want to keep Strange in the team as well. And Fogarty's one of their best players. So, yeah, not interested in Cook. Ethan Strange, I think you can sell him pretty comfortably. He's done his dash, right? He's done a good job for you. It's time to go. KO Weeks. Okay, so a few questions about this. KO Weeks to Marzu. I think that's a fair trade. I think you're getting equal value. The issue is there isn't really that much of an issue. I mean, if there was a late change or something like that, right? And it was KO. I guess if you trade KO Weeks to Marzu and then there's a late change and Sharp comes in or something insane like that, you're protected because you can reverse that trade. So, yeah, I like that trade. Sharp, will he get any minutes? I don't think he'll get many minutes at all. I think he'll be a bit of a flop this week. Will KO Weeks keep the fullback spot? Yes, I think he will, 100%. I think he's locked into that fullback spot. Is he a big fantasy scorer there is the other question. Probably not. He's probably more like a 40 average instead of a 50 average, maybe even lower than the 40, unless depending on how the Raiders play. Like last week, his score was really bad until he scored that full field try, but he scored the full field try, so you can't write it off. He's got some big attacking plays in him. Is Weeks a hold or a sell? I think he's a sell. I think he's a sell at this stage. That's of you there. I'll go through the questions in a sec, guys. Let me just finish this game. So, forward pack, Papali'i, Starling, Tarpanay, Young, Whitehead. Smithies, what is Starling's price? He's super, super cheap from memory. But for this forward pack here, Tarpanay came back to earth a bit. He's a guy you're probably going to sell after Origin. He's not a full-blown keeper. The rest of it, Smithies is a guy you could sell right now. I don't mind that. Bench, nothing too crazy. It's probably just Starling that's worth talking about here. So if Starling keeps the minutes, I'm willing to wait one more week and cop a bit of a points hit and make that Starling move after round 19 because the Raiders don't play round 19 anyway. So yeah, I would stick with. I would wait a week. I would wait a week or wait 2 weeks, I guess, on Starling. That's my advice there. For the Knights, we got Ponga, Tuala, Gagai, Best, Marzu, Price, and Hastings. Ponga being back is pretty insane. Look, give it a week is my advice here. I'd probably be thinking, let's just see how he plays. Let's see him come back good. Let's see a decent score. The Raiders is a matchup that he should go well in. But I would wait a week on him. If you want to go mad and go do it. I can't stop you. He could be one of those top-level keepers at the wing fullback spot. So if you want to do it, do it. Fa'alongo or Weeks to Ponga is a really good question. So I would be steering towards Fa'alongo, but remember what we were talking about before. If Fa'alongo comes into the wing spot against the Tigers, I like him as a big scorer in that game. So I'd switch it to Weeks, maybe. Or maybe just go Fa'alongo. Probably Fa'alongo pretty much no matter what, but just keep that in mind. Jaden Brayley thoughts. Yeah, we'll talk about this now as well. So let's go through that now. So the backline, we'll talk about the backline, then we'll go to Brayley. So for the rest of the backline here, Bradman Best is there. He's on fire lately. It's too late. We were talking about him at the start of the year and about 8 weeks in when he was really cheap, and I had him in my team. So I had the trade completed, and then Kale Iro got locked in to the starting spot. And I had to switch it to Kale Iro because you had to get him. He was so cheap. But man, that would have been the best. Bradman Best is a very expensive pod now. So if you think he can keep up this form, go and do it. He has 100+ point upside. Ponga being back is good news for him too. He's in great form. But do I think he's a smart buy? He's a risky option. I don't think he's guaranteed to produce for you. Greg Marzu is definitely undervalued, but doesn't have the upside of a Bradman Best. Will Price, I'm not the biggest fan of. Will Price, I was intrigued. Wasn't super hyped on the score last week. I think he can produce, and he's a decent option, but I just think we have some other options that are better. And I prefer Marzu over Will Price personally, but if you like Price, go get Price. For the forward pack, Safidi, Brayley, Thompson, Frizzell, Pierce Paul, and Adam Elliott. So for this, look, Jaden Brayley, he gets a week. Crossland is out with a concussion this week. So if Crossland's out, Brayley should play close enough to 80 minutes. For the rest of the team here, Leo Thompson comes back from an Achilles issue. Frizzell, Pierce Paul, and Dylan Lucas are all on the side. So that could be a late change. We could see anything there. Lucas was out last week. So I reckon they probably keep it as Frizzell and Pierce Paul starting. And Lucas might be a guy who comes off the bench into that starting side. It's a bit of a mess. I'd hold them for round 19. If I had them, I wouldn't go and buy them is basically my answer to all of the back row questions for the Knights. Let's see any other questions here. Because Fletcher Sharp, I think Fletcher Sharp will play really small minutes. I wouldn't trust him as a starter at all for your side. And yeah, that gets us through. So that is the final game. So shoot me through your trade questions now. If you have any trades you're looking at, I will have a look at those trades. We'll also do, remember guys, 7 a.m. tomorrow, buy, hold, sell. That's where I do more analysis. So this is more of a first reaction. Let's we go deeper on those options. And then we do pimp my team as well tomorrow too. So let's see. Thinking that, Jovi Greg, always love your work, man. Love your work. Josh Muddle, thinking that I might use my last trade to get Marzu for Wigs. So he's playing fullback and I need a wing fullback for round 19. Should I wait to trade him or do it next week? Okay, so the upside of doing it this week is that Marzu is on the rise in price and Weeks is probably stagnating. The upside as well is that Marzu and Weeks, they probably score a similar number this week, just on probabilities. But the downside of doing it right now is that if there's a change next week or an injury or whatever, you've used that trade, right? And then you don't have another trade to use. So if I was you, I'd probably play conservative and wait one more week but you could do it as well. It depends on your risk tolerance. I think with one trade left, I would personally prefer to hold that trade, but it's not a bad trade at all. Thoughts on Adam Elliott? Not a keeper. Inconsistent minutes. I'm not a fan. Hello, Sean and Jack. How you guys doing? Vats, Brayley, you keep him for this week. See what happens next week. I don't mind that. When's Terrell Mayer sell? Probably next week. Yeah, I think he's one you can get rid of pretty soon. Sharp to Kohler, not a bad move. Kohler's a stud. Trade out Twal, yeah, Twal's got to go. Tough one there. Haas or Fafita as captain, probably Fafita for me, just with the origin period. I think Haas's minutes are a bit dodgier, but Haas could easily outscore him. Grant to Madison. Yeah, it helps him around 19. Not a bad trade. Who should I trade in for Manu? Watch, buy, hold, sell. We'll go through all the options there. Hi, Longy. It's weeks away, but what's the trade strategy regarding keepers who won't make the top 8? Do you save trades, then mass trade around 27, 28? My view on this is I like to play it a bit dangerously on this front. So I don't mind using all my trades and limping to the finish line. That's the approach I like to take. It's riskier and you can get totally burned by it. It's probably smart to save a few trades right to the end because that final round, around 26, 27, there are often quite a few restings. So ideally, you want to hold a few trades. If you're head-to-head, you definitely want to hold some trades. But if you're overall, I think you want to get the points, right? So you want to make those moves where you get those players in round 20, round 21. You get 6 to 7 to 8 weeks out of those guys, as opposed to making a very late trade. Madison or Kolomatangi, I'm probably leaning Madison for the value. Manu and JMK, that's tough. Yeah, I guess you could sell both. Brayley to get 80. He should get 80 in this game 100%. Trade Galvin. No, absolutely not. Egan and Tomoko to Sipley and Nakora. I'm not super keen on selling Egan, personally. Trades are fine, but I wouldn't sell Egan for Sipley. I think Egan's going to be better than Sipley long term. When do we get more trades? So it's after round 20. So after Origin's done, you get 8 more trades. That's the big one there. Trade out Weeks, Hands, or Sharp. Probably Sharp out of those 3. I would say good move. Who would you trade JMK for? Starling, Simpkin, Damien Cook, probably 3 options there at hooker. Manu to sell, absolutely. Manu to Madison. Yep, I like that. Hands and Brown to Mazu and Simpkin. Free up cash around 20. Yeah, I mean, it's a tough one. Like, you're selling 2 guys who play around 19. So I don't love it. I don't mind it, but I don't love it. I reckon there are probably some better trades you can do. Who's your captain for this week? I'm going big bad Nico Hines. If I was looking at Trell, Yo, Fafita, and Hughes like you are, probably would go Fafita or Hughes. Probably Hughes on recent form is probably what I'd do there. I have JMK and Manu. Please help. Oh, use 2 trades. That's the help. Egan to Arpi. Coruscant's going to drop cash a bit this week. I like Coruscant, right? So he's going to be a good option down the stretch. But yeah, actually, the more I think about it, the more I don't mind this trade. This is a good option. Yeah, if you have trades, don't mind it. Would you trade Weeks to a keeper and not save cash? Yeah, 100%. If you can go Weeks to a keeper, that's what he was there for, right? He made us that money. He's sweet. Taps, trade with Tapane? Yeah, 100%. I would be open to trading Tapane, probably more likely around 20, but you could do it now. Where's Jahu? I don't know where Jahu is. Gotta get into him. Where is he? Weeks not kicking now too. Yeah, exactly right. And Fogarty comes back in round 20, so it's over. CNK or Preston to Mazu or Kohler? Preston is the sell out of those 2, and Kohler is probably the better option as a buy. He's very high upside, but they're both good options. I have Manu and JMK and 500k in the bank. What do? Watch, buy, hold, sell. I'll talk you through the options there. Longy, Weeks, Sharp, Kohler, Mazu. Yeah, these are good moves. I like those moves. Manu for who? A lot of the options we just talked about now. Thanks for answering questions, Big Dog. No worries, man. No worries. I'll answer them as long as there are questions to answer. KO Weeks to hold fullback when Fogarty is back. 100%. Yeah, he will definitely hold that spot. I'm basically certain, right? The fact that Rapana's on the wing, it tells me that. What do I do with Sharp? I got him last week. You hold on to him. Hold on to him this week. See what happens next week. Hopefully he gets back into the starting side somehow, maybe on the wing, maybe a fullback, whatever. But it's not looking great. Can Marnie be a captain option? Yeah. I don't think he's a full-blown captain option, but he's a tier 2 captain option. Yeah. KO Weeks to Latrell. I love this for round 20. I'm not the biggest fan of it right now just because Latrell will play Origin and he has picked up injuries in Origin before. It's a decider in Queensland as well. So it's going to be a fight up sort of game. He could get suspended even. Could do something crazy. Draft trade, Murray and Weeks for DCE and Sorensen. God help me. Yeah, that's not bad. That's not bad. DCE is a better keeper than Murray. And Sorensen and Weeks are close, right? So I think this is a good move for you. Yeah. Best cheapies of the week. Starling, Simpkin, Tungo at Parramatta. Probably the 3 options. You can look at the guy on the bench for Parramatta. I forgot his name. There's a forward on the bench I've heard is really good as well. But we'll go through that. We'll do buy, hold, sell. So we do a whole section on cheapies. That's in the middle of the video. So buy, hold, sell video comes out 7 a.m. tomorrow. There's a whole section in the middle of that's about the top 5 cheapies of the week and why we like each one. Walker to Hines. Yep, good trade. I'm going to pick a few more. Let's see. Who we got? Who's good? I'm going to own up. I did this, yeah. So I just thought Ponga would be back in round 20. And I just like the fact that, look, Sharp 3 games, good fixtures. I just thought he'd get a job done. So that's a tough one. Look, it was a cash out that I needed, so I don't hate it too much for my team. But it's not turned out super well. Ponga's come back very early. All right, Hines versus Fifi for captain. I'm going Hines myself, but either are good options. I'm going to pick 3 more here. Thoughts on Galvin and Plath? So this is a really interesting one, actually. So Galvin, I think, is going to fade down the stretch. He's just a really young guy. Tigers are, it's a tough team to play in. So I think Galvin's going to fade, but I think he's a guy who, for now, is a great option to keep. So keep him. Plath is another one that's really interesting. So JMK going down actually brought him some more life. I was thinking that Plath is kind of a 45 average guy down the stretch. So I didn't want to keep him long term, but if he goes from lock to playing some hooker as well, and he plays that Connor Watson role, suddenly he becomes very viable. So for Plath, he has a potential chance over the next couple of weeks to cement that spot and be a keeper for us. But there's also a chance he goes back to small minutes and isn't a keeper. Then I'll pick a couple more here. Thank you, Pete. Appreciate it, mate. All the way from Greece. Damn. I wish I was in Greece. That's sick. That's so cool. Let's see what else we got. Trades last week. So I bought Nico Hines, Ryan Madison, and the Sharp fail. So look, Nico is fine. I'm a big fan of getting that top player as soon as they're back, and you just roll with it. Nico didn't get the big score last week. It's fine. 55, whatever it was, is okay. But I think he's going to pop off this week. So I'm going to captain Nico Hines basically for the rest of the year, unless I get Cleary, which I probably will. And then I might captain Cleary here and there as well. And then I'll get a few more here. Hey, Longy, do I trade Manu, Weeks, Strange, or Blore for Madison? Manu, 100%. Definitely Manu. Is Aitken a hold? Yeah, definitely. Aitken's rock solid. Just hasn't had big scores lately, but he's fine. Is Whiten a keeper until the end of the season? He's not a real starter. I wouldn't start him, but I don't mind him as an edgier bench guy. And then who are my current hookers? I've got Reed Marnie, and I think I only have one. So I'm super open to buying a guy like Simpkin or Starling or one of these guys, which is what I'm looking at right now. Probably going to go Simpkin, save some cash for round 20. And then no worries. I'll catch you in the next one. All right, guys, that is... I'll give a quick shout out. Jack as well. Triple digits, 961. Awesome score. All right, guys, that is our Teamless Tuesday reactions done. Hopefully it was useful for you. I love doing these ones. They're super chill videos. We'll be doing buy, hold, sell at 7 a.m. tomorrow. So just make sure you subscribe to the channel. Yeah, that one, we do some giveaways as well for Guess the Score. We're doing Pimp My Team tomorrow too. So they're the spots to be. I'll see you guys in those videos. Otherwise, good luck this week. Peace out, everyone.